What's up, guys? I am here today to answer the podcasting question of the day on this Thursday. It's podcasting Q&A day. And you know what that means. I'm going to try my hardest to be under 5 minutes. But first, I want to tell you, if you have a question, please go over to podcastcoachingforkingdomentrepreneurs.com. And link is going to be in the show notes. And you can leave me a voicemail right there and ask your podcasting question. It can be about anything, launch, equipment, strategy. I would love to hear from you so I can answer your questions. All right, so let's jump right in, and we're going to answer this question that I often get, and it is, how long should my episodes be? And so to answer this question, I want you to, number one, I'm always going to bring you back to your listener. How long do they have to listen to your podcast? If they are a young mom, they have very little time to plug in those AirPods and listen to your podcast. I would say most of those moms. So again, thinking about them, if your audience is more of they commute a lot, or they're in their car a lot, maybe their kids are older, they have a little bit more time, then yes, they have a lot more time to listen, and their listening habits might be a little bit more increased than, say, a young mom who does not have a lot of extra space in the season. So think about your listener, number one. Number two is think about your genre of podcast. Now, I used to have a podcast, in my other podcast called Holistic Hearts. And in there, it was pretty quick. I did 5 to 10 minute episodes because it was more of a meditation type of podcast. So I have podcasters who have 5-minute podcasts, and I have podcasters who have almost an hour of a podcast. And depending on your genre, that's what you need to look at. And number one is, do you have adequate time to go over the framework that you need to teach in that episode or topic? If you are mostly interviewed based, I want you to think about, how long does it take for you to go to coffee with a friend? It's going to be about an hour. So if you think about that in your interview, in a conversation, most conversations are 30 to 60 minutes. Now, in that coffee shop illustration, you're going to take out little chunks of here and there of maybe things that aren't relevant to your listener. And that's the idea here, is keeping it 30 to 60 minutes. Now, for solo episodes, you want to make sure that you have adequate time to go over your framework, like I said, and to make sure you put some of your personality in there. But don't overdo it on stories that have nothing to do with your show. You want to make sure that those side stories, or even the stories that are really hammering in your topic and your framework, that it's going to educate, entertain, make them laugh, cry, feel some sort of emotion to connect with you as their podcast host that they're listening to. So I would say the sweet spot for most podcasts, now there are outliers depending on what style it is, what their listeners need, but I would say most podcasters have episodes that are 20 to 60 minutes long. So that is your sweet spot right there. One great tool to have moving forward, if you are a new podcaster, you will get this information, but not quite yet. Inside of Podcast Connect on Apple's statistics and analytics spot dashboard, where you go and you enter in your podcast, inside of there, you will find statistics of how long listeners are listening. Now, your goal is to be about 80 to 85%. And if you notice that your episodes, there's 60%, 50%, then you know to cut it down. Maybe you need to do shorter chunks. Maybe you need to cut out the fluff in between and get really dialed in. That's partially why I created this new 5-minute segment on Thursdays to answer your questions, because I was noticing that a lot of people didn't have time for the longer episodes. And I just wanted to be able to serve podcasters, new and seasoned, well. So that's the answer to that question of how long should my episodes be. I hope that was helpful. And again, you guys, I want to put this in there before we sign off, trying to get under the 5-minute mark. Ask your audience. Ask them through Google Forms, through social media, through polls, through conversations, and get feedback from them. All right, friends, happy podcasting. Thursday, Q&A day, and I will see you next time.